You or someone you love needs help for an addiction. Where do you turn? Foundations Recovery Network offers individualized treatment for the whole person. Our goal goes beyond short-term sobriety. We address substance abuse and co-occurring mental health issues together, providing a firm foundation for long-term recovery. The first step is often the hardest, but we're here with a free assessment, insurance information, and treatment options. Our confidential helpline is available 24/7. So call 877-714-1318 and discover the Foundations Recovery Network difference today.
This is Rich Roll, and you're listening to Sober Guy Radio.
Yo, what's up? Thank you for tuning in today. Thanks to Humans for bringing us in. Thanks to you for supporting the show. Check out Humans music. You can go to www.dashumans.com. That's DASHumans.com. Also check them out on iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. Much love and a big thanks to them. I'm stoked to get to our guest today. He's one of my favorite dudes, spreading truth and positivity around the globe. But before I introduce him, I have a few announcements. Number one, be sure to check us out at thatsoberguy.com. You can get past episodes, resources there. You can also see when the next live shows are. And be sure to connect with us on Instagram and Twitter at RealThatSoberGuy on Instagram. And then if you're on Facebook, check us out at the private Facebook group, Sober Guy, Sober Girl. I think there's just over 600 people in there trying to stay sober, all different points. So it's a great way to connect and stay in tune to your sobriety and your recovery journey. What else, man? I got a whole list of them here. I'm putting together a podcast video course with some top professionals and some of my closest homies in the recovery community. It's called How to Navigate the First 90 Days of Sobriety. If you're interested in being notified as soon as the podcast video course goes live, which will be September 1st, go to thatsoberguy.com, click on courses. You can sign up to receive updates, and there's also a quick video there if you want some more info. We have an official launch date of July 17th for the new weekly Tuesday Sober Guy show with the big homie Seth Manter hosting. If you want to reach out to Seth directly with any questions or just want to say congrats, you can hit him up at Seth@thatsoberguy.com. Man, we had so many requests for more content, and let's hear more from Seth. And we thought, man, what a great way to do it than for Seth to just get on Rock His Own Tuesday show. So we're really pumped about that. And then we have the first live Sober Guy show coming September 7th at the Phoenix Theater in Petaluma, California. Special guest TJ Woodward will be there. He's the author and creator of Conscious Recovery. So we're going to have some fun at this badass underground punk rock venue, really an iconic spot in the Bay Area. So check that out. Last but not least, if you have any questions about whether you or a loved one may need some help, you can contact Foundations Recovery Network at 877-714-1318. They have nationwide residential and outpatient facilities, and they can provide a confidential assessment and review the best treatment options for you or your loved one's situation. One more time, that's 1-877-714-1318. David Rachford, what's up, man? So good to have you back.
Yeah, it's been a while, huh?
Dude, I was looking. It's been since episode 99, and when this goes live, this will be episode 202. So wow. Yeah, it's been a long time. It's long overdue for sure. I know we've been trying to link up for a few weeks now, man. How are you, bro?
I'm doing well, man, but it's been so long, man. The last I connected with you was I sent you a text that said, "Shove your hand up my ass and jerk off my shit."
I forgot about that. I got to pull that shit up. I don't know what the context of that was. I'm sure it wasn't literal. I hope not, at least.
No. It was something that I'd read from David Sedaris, and he was talking about how people, have insults in different parts of the world. Like in here we might say something like "eat shit,"
fuck off.
But I think this was from Romania. Yeah, shove your hand up my ass and jerk off my shit.
Dude, that is some brutal shit right there.
And it would just leave you wondering WTF, man.
Could you imagine if you got in a cab or something over in some different part of the country? And you got into it with the guy and he told you that?
Romania.
Yeah, man. I'd be fucking clueless. Did he just say that? I think he did.
And then you reach into your wallet and pay him whatever he wanted.
Pretty much just to get the fuck out of there. I'd be gone.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, it's been a while, man. I can't believe that 202 episodes. Congratulations to you and
thank you.
Sober Guy Radio. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks, man. We're moving along, dude. We're having fun. I always say the day that I stop having fun is the day that I won't do this anymore. So yeah. I mean, that's really what it's about, and it's cool to see the platform growing, bringing the big homie Seth on board, and all kinds of cool stuff, man.
Cool. Yeah, that's sort of why. Last time we connected, I was still doing the Better Human show, and you've got Das Humans sponsoring your show. That's pretty cool. But I put that show on pause specifically because it wasn't putting a smile on my face. There were some issues that I was like getting caught up in the editing, and I wanted to up the quality of it. And I just didn't want it to be like another like kind of mid-tier podcast, even though I was getting decent downloads. Yeah. But it stopped like really filling my heart with joy and feeling like I was just adding to the conversation versus just kind of creating more noise. Yeah. So it's like just about anything, if you're not having fun with it, if it's not adding to your life, you got to keep like evaluating things in terms of your values. Is it adding, or is it like becoming a chore? And if it's becoming something that you really just, you got to grind, you got to work
for sure.
But sometimes you got to drop something in order to allow something else to come up, to create space for something new.
Well, totally, man. And like, if we're talking about just specifically like podcasting in general, dude, it's a lot of work, the post-production and getting in there and sound, making sure the quality is good. And it can be overwhelming at times too. And I know like one of the things that I've done, continuously now, probably over the last year, is I just stopped the mindset of that I can edit. Almost like I literally had to change my mindset, because I always went into the mindset of, cool, I can cut that out later. I can edit it. I can, I'll fix it later on. And it was creating like more work. And so it's done two things for me. Number one, it's made me a better host in my efficiency. And I still say stupid shit, but I just, every once in a while I got to clip something or whatever. But for the most part, it's really cut back on having to do a lot of that post-production that was taking so much time. Now I can pretty much, put the file in and throw the music in there. And for the most part, it's like, I always say it's like in and out. They have like this system that they use, and the system doesn't really change, and it's fluent. And every once in a while you get a hiccup or whatever. But when it starts becoming a job, and like I said before, if I stop having fun with it, man, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah. So you're like adapting the idea that when you're done, it's done, and good enough is good enough. Cause like, otherwise you start getting in your way, and you start seeking that perfection, that perfect product, and if you're on a limited budget or whatever, then it really gets in the way of your output. And when you start hiding that, you're not helping the world by spreading the message.
So how did you come up with the final decision? Because a lot of people can't let shit go. I know I'm one of those people. I tend to hold on to things sometimes, so you had to come to a moment, I'm sure there's been other things in your life too, but let's just use the podcast, for example, where you said, like that decision had to be made, even though you probably still wanted to do it. Maybe you couldn't.
Yeah, and
how did that look?
I still do. Like I still want to do it. I still see that coming back in my future. Mm-hmm. When I either release that perfectionism, or when I feel compelled to, or I've got new contacts that I really want to talk to, and create that conversation. But for me, the thing that mentally I said, hey, I'm ready to let this go temporarily. I just said, hey, I'm gonna hit pause on it. Yeah. Because that's the whole thing about like, even sober living, it's like, you're going to quit it. You're like, you say, hey, this isn't really serving me anymore. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go sit at the bar.
Maybe I ought to stop this for a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. And then you string the days together, but you create space for something new in that way. It's like, maybe I'm actually going to start dealing with my shit, and if you're always on the go and always on the go, really you can hide yourself in that kind of workaholism, so whether it be alcoholism or workaholism or whatever it is, you're just burying your head and keep plunging forward, but you're not dealing with your shit.
Oh yeah.
And it's going to come back and get you.
Hell yeah.
But for me, I just said, okay, I'm going to take a little break, see what comes up. And for me, what came up was like, okay, I'm a yoga guy.
Yeah.
Right. And so I had started teaching yoga and got involved with I think that was another thing. I got involved with a really good yoga studio.
And can I add, thank God you don't have a man bun. Thank you, brother. Like, I'm just going to say it.
We'll get into that. We can get into that story. It's been a while and you've probably got some new listeners that might not remember all of that. If, hopefully the 4 or 5 that were listening back then,
maybe two if I'm lucky, dude.
Are still with us. Yeah. Thanks, Ben.
Right.
Anyway. But I got involved with a yoga studio and was being called to teach more, and now I'm teaching at a popular studio in town, which is kind of a trip. So like I had like a new role model thing to go into, but I was teaching another 4 or 5 hours a week. And, with a podcast, easily it's 4 or 5 hours a week, and so that time just kind of evaporated for me. And then as I got into teaching, it was like people were responding really well to it, and they were saying, whoa, you're a big guy. You're not like the type of guy that usually teaches yoga, and when we stereotype this, that, it's, a vegan, soy latte drinking, man bun wearing, that kind of thing.
There's definitely a stigma behind it, especially for men.
Yeah. Whereas I'm like a 235 pound, like fairly muscular guy, Navy veteran. I'm physically intimidating, 6'1", and, I mean, it's like, but now I'm teaching this sort of, I've heard it described as, yoga is a martial art that you practice on yourself.
Huh.
And I like that, it's like, it gets you into your body, into your breath. And that's where we need to deal with things. Things come up where, you're doing something that's hard or stressful and you're like, you want to run away, but, if with the proper guidance, you can get through it. Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's just like having those outlets to release some of that stress, the anger. I'm doing a step study right now in CR, and man, one of the top things out of, more than half the guys in this group is anger. And I know all, for me too, it's all like that it's kind of like for me, it's kind of like a hybrid of anger and frustration. And I've gotten much better at it, but it still pops up. So what are those outlets that I have, to deal with some of that stuff? Is it, go on a jog or go to the gym or do a podcast or go on a walk, so whatever, go to a meeting, whatever it is, like for you, yoga, you know what I mean? For a lot of people, yoga, meditation, prayer. I hear, when I talk to a lot of guys or people in general, so, well, what are you doing to kind of, fight back against some of that stuff? Well, nothing, I mean? I don't really do, I work and, you know what I mean? I come home and I'm fucking exhausted and, and that's the normal thing, dude. And it didn't work for me for a long time doing that. Right.
So here's a trippy thing, like to talk about anger specifically. And I don't know if I shared this with you on the last time I was on your show. So when, and I made peace with this, man. And this was okay. There are a couple things that happen in our lives, chances are you can look back at 1 or 2 things and say that was the worst thing that ever happened to me. And then yet 10, 15, 40 years later, you look back at it and say, wow, that was a hell of an opportunity. And I'm glad it happened because that gave me a gift. Yeah. Right. And somewhere a couple years ago, I was doing some work. I was doing a lot of yoga and, that one of the things that comes up in yoga, especially in teacher training, we talk about, and to put it in the context of the Me Too era, there've been a number of scandals involving prominent yoga gurus who have had inappropriate relationships, from sexual harassment to sexual assault to rape, all that kind of stuff, and it comes up. And so we were talking about this in class and in the teacher training, and it's not uncommon for a teacher training to be, 80% plus women. So, consider it like if there are 10 people in the training course, there's going to be 8 women and maybe 2 men, and that's typical. And that's kind of the typical, about 25% of the students at yoga studios now, coming up on 30% now are men. So in the yoga environment in the United States, men are in the minority. Anyway, the topic of sexual, we'll call it assault, because inappropriate touching and stuff came up. And like something hit me, because like all of these women were dealing with a history of sexual abuse or something, some sort of trauma.
Some sort of traumatic experience.
Right. Some sort of traumatic memory. And what happens in yoga practice is, because you're moving through different positions with your body, with your hips and your organs and all of this stuff, like emotional stuff comes up, because the way our brain works, the emotion, when we actually have sensations of emotion, that is our body feeling a memory, right? So we are perfectly capable. I mean, humans are the only people. Humans are the only people. We're the only beings that can think something, whether it be positive. Like you think about your kids and the funny thing that they do, and it makes you just like happy and giggly, and or your son brings you a card for Father's Day, and it's and he spent some time coloring a little picture for you, and it just warms your heart. And then you physically feel that in your body, in your heart, right? Same as with anger. If you can go back to a time when something really bad happens, your breathing changes, you get tension, anxiety and all that stuff. So our memory triggers physical sensations in our body. Emotions, physical sensations, it's the physical embodiment of a memory.
Yeah.
Okay. And so yoga is a practice that can move you through this stuff, So like a lot of people are talking about ayahuasca and all these trips that they're using to liberate themselves.
Yeah, there's all kinds of that shit going on right now, especially in the recovery community. I've been hearing about it too.
And I haven't used it, so I don't know.
Yeah, me either.
But another way of getting there is through perhaps yoga practice. And the thing is it might take years in order for that to work, So here I was practicing yoga. This is going on probably, this would be about 2 or 3 years ago. And all this anger stuff was coming up, and I was just like, whoa, wait a second. What's happening here? I'm like moving through this. And I realized how much of everything that I'd done was anger-based. Okay, so going back to like why I joined the military. I joined the military because I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. So I joined the Navy, and of course, some things happened where I didn't quite get right into the school. So I was like, okay, well, I'm in the Navy. Yeah. This is where I got to be if I'm going to be a SEAL. I'll just do the best I can and work hard, and eventually I'll get there, right? And so I'm doing my job, and everything's cool. And then I get hurt, right? So here I am at 23, 24 years old, best peak shape of my life. And I had applied to the school. I'd gotten in. I was about 6 months away from going, and crash. Everything, like I ruptured a couple discs in my back. My leg collapsed. I couldn't walk. I couldn't do my job. And then that just led the process of me getting ground down and turned into a fine pulverized powder. where then I was ejected into the VA medical system. And for some reason, my body told me, don't do surgery. And my doctor was pretty good. He said, the doctor I had said, you've got a 1/3 chance of getting better, a 1/3 chance of no change, a 1/3 chance of being worse. So you 2/3 no change or worse, 1/3 better. I'm not taking those odds.
Yeah.
But they also gave me a shit ton of Percocet, and I did take that, and for years. And anyway, somehow I made it through college, and
you were taking Percocet all through college and all through. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Well, you did legitimately need it for pain. I'm assuming at first, definitely at first, especially with the back injury. That shit's severe.
Yeah. Well, I went through this for a couple years, got off of it, got active again, but then the injury came back. And so this is about 10 years ago. I was back in the VA. Getting treatment for my back, getting cortisone injections. This time they stepped me up to MS Contin, and which is morphine sulfate, I think. I was chewing that like candy, like those Smartie pills, and then washing it down with alcohol and all of that, and then my sleep was fucked up, so they gave me some benzodiazepam. I was like, that's like the perfect cocktail of just death.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, dude, that's like just fucking death right there.
Yeah, and probably the worst part about that, and what I remember about it, besides like kind of just being sluggish, was, dude, I couldn't take a shit. When you're on opiates, dude, it's so hard to take a shit.
Vicodin. I remember Vicodin just constipates like for like a week. The only time I don't shit is when I go backpacking. Everyone fucks with me. They're like, you don't shit the whole time? They're like off taking dumps behind a tree, and I'm like, nope, I'm good unless I really got to go. But the Vicodin and dude, you literally cannot go physically. It does something to you. It's brutal.
Oh man, it's horrible. Anyway, so it was during that stint in. During that cycle where I was in a rehabilitation or physical rehabilitation, PT, physical therapy, that I was laying on the ground doing some stretches and some exercises, and I told the physical therapist, I said, I know you want me to do this 15 minutes a day, twice a day when I'm at home. I said, but I'm not doing it. What else can I do? Is there something else I could do to like this kind of feels like is this yoga? She says, yeah, this is yoga. Go to a yoga studio. So, what I did is I looked on Groupon, found a Groupon for $40 unlimited yoga, signed up, and at the time I was 274 pounds.
Really?
And using the narcotics, daily, using benzos, drinking. And I just said, okay, I'm a cheap motherfucker. It's $40 for unlimited month. I'm going to go 20 times and make each visit $2. And so I went 20 times, 5 days a week for 4 weeks. And at the end of that first 30 days, I was down like 10, 15 pounds.
Really?
Because it was a hot yoga thing, I was like, I'm not drinking tonight because like it's going to make me feel like shit tomorrow. So I cut my drinking way back. And then at the end of the month, I was like, okay, now you got to pay $100 to keep this practice up. And I'm like, okay. I'm feeling something.
You were invested in it too,
And so I kept at it. By the end of month 2, I was down like 25 pounds. I had cut my painkillers in half, was mostly off the alcohol. And then by month 3, I was down about 35, 40 pounds, completely off the benzos, completely off the narcotics, no withdrawals on that. Started doing acupuncture, and of course, my mobility and my range of motion was coming back, and so I just kept at it, and then eventually, after a couple of years of that, I was like, maybe I should take a teacher training. Maybe I'll meet some cool yoga chicks.
Those yoga pants kept you coming back.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Those things should be illegal.
Sometimes they should be. Anyway, well, I'll tell you a secret of the teacher, the yoga teacher secret in a little bit. But So anyway, so I continue to train, and it was during the second teacher training thing that I did where it came up that like, fuck, everything I did was motivated by anger. And I'm like, okay, so why am I so angry? Why was I angry? And I was like, and I was reading something that talked about like grief work or something. And I was like, well, you know, am I like, why should I be mad at my mom? And I was like, well, I know I was, you know, the reason why I was mad and why I wanted to go into the Navy SEALs and kill people, that's what I wanted to do, you know, was because my mom had a shitty fucking boyfriend when my parents divorced. And his name was Jack. He died of cirrhosis of the liver, which made me really happy. Still kind of does, because he was a piece of shit. And so if you're out there being a piece of shit to some single mom, you know, send Shane a message that.
I'll forward it over your way, Dave.
And you know what? And here's what I'll do. I'll forgive you.
There you go.
I'll find compassion for you.
It's huge, bro.
But dude, so I'll tell you a little story about like how bad this guy was. I was a 13, 14-year-old kid, and I had a paper route. My mom would go out drinking with this guy, and he was just a leech, a sponge. And I had every month I had to go collect money, knock on the doors and say, you know, hey, I'm collecting for the Tulare Advanced Register. Please spend, you know, give me $4.50. And, you know, if I was lucky, I'd get a 5 spot for a 50-cent tip. You know, and the way paper routes worked is you had to buy the papers and the supplies and all that stuff wholesale at the end of the month. So if you had 60 newspaper or 60 customers on your route, you might make $60, $70, you know, after you paid your expenses. But I was pretty good at saving, you know. So I had money. I had this a little tackle box with a, you know, little key that you could open with a bobby pin. One time, her boyfriend goes in and steals all my money, like right at the end of the month, $240 that I've got to go pay my bill down at the newspaper. Otherwise, they're gonna sell my job, you know. And confronted him, and he says, I don't remember. You know, my brother wouldn't have taken it. My mom ended up covering him, and then I started calling him Jackass. You know, that was his name, Jack. And then another time he went through my piggy bank and stole all the silver coins, which is probably about $40, $50. Oh man, I wanted that guy to like do something physically to me or my brother or my mom, so I could go in and bash his head in with a hammer. And I was putting my.
You probably had those visions too, huh? Like a vision, like you make up those stories. Like I just want to fucking crush his face right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Anger. And I was punching walls, and I was an angry kid, right? So here's the story. This is a true story, man. And so one night my mom's out with him drinking at the bar. They get in a fight. She says, you know, fuck this shit. I'm walking home. And it's a bar on the wrong side of town, 4 or 5 miles away. It's 2:00 in the morning or whatever. She's walking home. Van pulls over. They abduct her. 4 or 5 guys kidnap her, rape her, beat her up, and leave her for dead out in a field outside of town, right? And then so it's like probably a Friday night. I'm at home, you know, watching cartoons. This first time mom's never come home. I'm watching cartoons Saturday morning. And she comes by, you know, like her head's down. She's like covering herself. She says, I'm going to bed. I'm like, what happened? She says, leave me alone. I'm going to bed, you know? And then I don't know what time it was, you know, but she just was in bed all day. And I go in at night and say, you know, what happened? And she's like all beat up. Did Jack do this? God. She said, no, Jack didn't do it. I'll tell you later. Sunday morning, you know, she tells us what happened, me and my brother, and I'm like, oh, just fucking pissed, you know. I mean, and I'm like
how old were you at this?
I was 13, you know.
Man, just a kid.
So I was like, anyways, that's why I was so angry, right? And I was angry at my mom because, you know, here she was, you know, she was an alcoholic. She was obviously not in control of what she was doing. Hanging out with this jackass guy and who was a complete loser. My dad was like a good guy. He's a solid guy. You know, he drank, but never like got, you know, tight or, you know, beat us or anything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, he always had a good paycheck, you know, and
solid dude.
Yeah. I mean, just anyway, but so I was like angry and I look back at all this stuff that was like anger motivated. I'm like, well, what's the antidote to anger? You know, like, how is there a way that is there a way that this could be a good thing? Like, if you look back at your story and say, is there a way it's a good thing? And I'm like,
that's pretty fucking tough to do with that story, bro.
I
know where you're going with it. I think I know where you're going, but let me just say I'm sorry that happened, bro. Because that's just fucking, that's a terrible fucking story, bro.
Well, no, it's rough, sure, but dude, look at what's on the other side of that.
And it's
okay. What if you can forgive and find compassion for that? You know, there's a saying that anger is a poison that hurts the vessel that holds it. Right? Have you ever heard that?
I haven't. Or not at least like that.
Yeah, anger is a poison that hurts the vessel that holds it. And I got to thinking about this, you know, like, okay, so if that anger is hurting me because I am now acting in things that are, you know, negative to me, whether I'm escaping through drugs or, you know, relationships or whatever it is, then like I'm the one being hurt. Sure, it's my anger. Is it justified? Hell yeah.
Yeah.
But what if I can find the opposite of anger, which is forgiveness and compassion, right? And then express that. I mean, like, my mom's dead, you know, Jackass is dead. But if I can find, and I don't have to say that, you know, she did the best she could, you know, because come on, you know, but find forgiveness and compassion in her and for me, you know. And
so how have you been able to do that in such a trauma? I mean, that's, you want to define, you know, trauma as a kid. I mean, that's a fucking example to a T right there.
So I did a lot of journaling. I've done a lot of yoga. I've gone on several meditation retreats. We can talk about that, you know, if you want to hear about Vipassana or something like that.
Well, no, because I mean, the forgiveness, compassion, you know, in my newer journey with meditation and just my practice, which isn't very good yet, but I'm that's why it's practice, is the compassion, the forgiveness, concept of that in these meditation sessions is so strong in it, and learning how to understand that and how to practice it, you know, is it's not easy, but it seems to be crucial at the same time, and that's kind of what you're getting at.
Yeah. So like I've come to the conclusion that human beings, that we're supposed to be conduits, not vessels, you know. And so the thing is that we have a tendency to hold on to things, you know, whether it be possessions that you know, or all the stuff or feelings that get bottled up inside and then blow up, you know. Whereas if we become more of a conduit, and this is something that I've experienced through meditation, is that you see something come up, or you experience it, you feel it, you observe it, and then you also observe it passing away. Okay, because so everything is just a constant flow of changing sensations. Things arise and then they pass away. And it could be everything, you know, something from a little itch on your ear as you're just sitting there and trying to be mindful, and you're like, that I feel a sensation, my ear itches.
Yeah.
And let's just continue to observe it without reacting to it. And then all of a sudden I don't notice that anymore. Now I notice a bead of sweat dripping down my back or whatever it is, you know, and then something else happens, and then you call your attention to your breath or whatever it is that you're trying to be mindful of. And a lot of that came between the second and third time I'd sat at the Vipassana meditation retreat.
Yeah, well, and I think a lot of that ties in with just what you're saying right now, or at least the way I understand it is that I keep coming back to the word impermanence. Everything is impermanent. There's a constant change. And I know, like, and they also talk about clinging. I'm clinging to things. Well, I'm clinging to a past relationship or a past trauma, or I'm clinging to my crutch, which is a liquor bottle or, a line of Coke or whatever it is, like that, those things that give me those feelings. I want to feel like that all the time, or I don't want to feel like that all the time. Well, the world is constantly moving and it's constantly changing. So how do we live in a world that's constantly changing and not get stuck in those certain places? And I think that's where a lot of people have found themselves. I know I'm a good example of that, especially towards the later end when I was really just fucking lost. And that's a really, really tough thing for people to climb out of, because that it's hard to open that door. It's just like, right. It's kind of like when you were going back to, with the first time you did, yoga, you clearly defined a strategy that you were going to use. And maybe you didn't know that's what you were doing at the time, but you didn't say like, I'm going to be a fucking yoga instructor and go do yoga for the rest of my life. You said, you know what? I'm going to try this shit out. I'm going to make a simple strategy. I'm going to crack the door to this, and I'm just going to see what happens. And I think if we can allow ourselves to find enough energy and enough confidence and enough fucking anger or whatever is motivating us to do that and step out, that's when the ball starts to roll and you can actually make some progress.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. Okay, so like look at the behaviors that we're trying to either break, like, reaching for the beer, reaching for the drugs or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times those behaviors become habits, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like the way you drive home and you stop at the liquor store, you buy beer and cigarettes, or, whatever it is your pattern is, right? Yeah. And so for me, like the drinking thing, and this has happened, probably about a month ago, and I'll be honest, I'm not 100% sober these days. I mean, like, I'm having beer couple times a month, and like right now I'm okay with that because like physically my health is amazing. Mm-hmm. And a couple of my friends drink, so we like to have a couple beers every now and then. But here's the one day that I went in, I drive by the liquor store or the mini market, and I see the little sign that says, lottery, $258 million or whatever it is. Yeah. I'm like, oh, I gotta go in and buy a ticket. And I'm like, and I walk in and I turn right and go straight to the back where that beer is. And I'm like, and before I even know it, my hand's on it. I'm like, holy shit. Wait, I didn't even think about it. I came in here to buy a lottery ticket, but I don't usually buy lottery tickets. I go in here and I usually go turn to the right and grab a beer. Yeah. That's what my body knows. So habits are what are the unconscious brain that, like, the body has that memory.
Yeah.
And whether it's reaching for a drug or whatever it is. And so like when I went to the yoga class, some people will say it takes 6 weeks to build a habit, others 21 days or whatever it is. But like you said, I committed to 20 classes in 30 days. And the other thing that I did was I was like, I'm not driving by the mini market anymore. Instead of turning right to go to the mini market, I'm turning left to go to the yoga studio.
Yeah.
And honestly, after an hour and a half of sweating that out, I don't feel like drinking beer. I feel like drinking ice cold water and some electrolytes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
So it's like for me, replacing a positive habit, where a negative one or a bad one, that's always been the way for me to improve.
So what do you think though about the person who is not able to recognize that? Like, I think that's a common thing too, where somebody may do just what you just did, walk in and subconsciously go in to grab a lottery ticket or whatever it is they're going in there to get, and do that. How, I mean, and I don't want to answer the question, but I'm going to fucking answer the question in my own opinion, I guess. It's like yeah, because I can't help myself, but like everybody's different. You know what I mean? And it's up to everybody to say like, this is a problem. I feel like this is a problem. You know what I mean? I think that's really the hard part of it.
Right. Well, yeah. So I think the first thing is you've got to recognize that there's something that you want to change, and the reason why you want to change it. And it could be your health, it could be your family, it could be, that you don't want to end up like, the thousands of homeless people we see on the streets around in various towns, that have just gone too far down. And so like, there's something you want to change.
Yeah.
And chances are, like I used to think that like one of my top values was having fun, and that drinking beer or wine was having fun. And it can be if you're limited to a couple times a month, like you're a moderate drinker, or one of those people that has the ability to put it down after 2 beers or something like that. But I tended not to be that way. If I was going to get sauced, I'd go until the end, till there's none left, or, then I'm making a risky drive to go get more.
Yeah.
And then I realized that my health is a much more, a higher value than that fun, that high, and so it just wasn't congruent to me.
Yeah.
And like, you can't be healthy and drink every night, I mean, maybe for a month you're not going to have any serious decline, but it's going to catch up to you. It's going to fuck with you long term.
Do you ever get scared though that might one night or one day you might turn back on that? I mean, is that ever a thought that's crossed your mind, or?
Not so much now, because
you feel like you're on a better path.
Right. Well, the thing that I've built into my life is accountability. Like I teach yoga 3 nights a week. So that means number one, I got to be sober to teach it. I know I'm sober when I'm done with it.
Yeah.
And I'm thirsty. I'm not like wine thirsty, and then the other thing on the other end, I get up and I go to the gym in the morning at 5. So I'm usually up at 4:30 having some coffee.
Yeah.
I'm at the gym. So like,
you have a strategy, you have a routine.
I bookend my days with things that are important to me, that give me accountability.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that, but for the person that is listening and saying like, okay, what is my habit? What's my drinking habit like? Or, is it a place that triggers you? Is it the way you drive home from work and, you see those familiar trucks at the mini market?
Yeah. Well, no, and that's, that was a good example of myself driving, to work and driving past this certain exit and white knuckling it, going, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. And then pulling off and stopping every day. Yeah. Every day. And I was just telling my sponsor, I think, was it my sponsor or one of my homies? I can't remember now, but I was telling somebody recently, we were talking about this a little bit, and it got to a point where I would walk into the liquor store and I didn't even have to tell the guy behind the counter what I wanted anymore. He just knew, and he just would hand it to me.
Yeah.
And that was the moment when I said, man, I think I might have a problem. You think,
Yeah.
And it's like, and that went on for quite a long time before, before I had tried to change some of those habits and some of those things. And I only had one way I could get to work. I couldn't go another way. So there was some really, really, deep soul searching and stuff that I had to do to kind of overcome that. But I guess what I wanted to kind of say too is like, I think in, certain cases, especially with somebody who is really, really struggling, like with addiction, with alcoholism, who is drinking daily, one of the biggest things, and we're working on this step right now, is denial. And so the person out there who is is drinking every day, but functioning and doing like the normal day-to-day thing. And there's a lot of motherfuckers out there who are functioning. They do jobs, they work, they take care of their business, but at the same time, they either have the secret or they have this, this lifestyle that they lead where alcohol or drugs is a main part of it daily. And so it's like, where do you draw the line between, somebody who is, can use alcohol as the tool that it's supposed to, you know what I mean? Responsibly, not drinking and driving, a beer here, a beer there, and can actually stop. And somebody who is drinking, obviously a lot more than normal and probably obviously has a problem, but is in denial and doesn't think they have a problem. Does that make sense? Like, that's like such a tough thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, to me, the thing is, I think you hit it on the head in that, is it like an unconscious thing that you just immediately have it?
Yeah.
You pull over, you get the 6-pack or the pint or whatever it is, the selected dose, and then you go home and you have that until it's gone. And that's the reason why you only get the 6-pack or the pint or whatever it is because that's how much you can handle to keep to your job. Yeah. But there's another saying that I heard that, you're literally, when you notice those things happening, whether it be an automatic thing, whatever it is you're saying, doing, or whatever, you're pulling over, the clerk hands you the thing, you stick your ATM in there, it's like automatic. Your body is doing this.
Yeah.
You're on autopilot, right?
For sure.
And
it was like a rush. It was almost like a rush,
But when you recognize that, when you recognize that you're doing something that's on autopilot and it's not a conscious thing to get you what you want in life, you're automatically tuning out, and there's a saying that like you're just creating highways in your brain. These neurons are associating that physical pattern, whether it be the way you drive home, the spot that you park in, the walking up to the store and it's the same, the same guy, Pardeep, who's like, "Hey, how you doing, Shane?"
Yeah, he knows me and shit. Yeah, oh yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, that whole interaction, and then your brain's associating that with the future reward of the intoxicant, right?
Yeah.
And you're literally rewiring your brain there, making that like a freeway so it's always easy for you to get off on that exit.
Yeah.
I think that you just need to recognize it and devise some sort of interrupt. I mean, back in the day, there was an actor named Larry Hagman. He was the major on I Dream of Jeannie. He was also on Dallas. He was JR.
Yeah. I remember the face. Yeah. And
he died of lung cancer. But when he was diagnosed with lung cancer, there was this big anti-smoking campaign, and they created what was called the Larry Hagman wristband, which was simply a rubber band. And, you'd wear a rubber band around your wrist anytime that you wanted to have a cigarette, and you'd snap it, and it would like be a pattern interrupt, and then so you'd associate with wanting a cigarette, pull, snap, and now you've got like a little negative feedback loop.
Yeah.
But it's also creating the sensation, that makes you very aware of the sensations in your body. And even something as simple as that, like want beer, snap the wristband, something like that. Interrupt the pattern. Find something positive to do.
I have my doctor. He told me for cravings, and we were actually talking about sugar cravings at the time to put it in context. But these cravings, and you can apply it to anything though. And he goes, rub your earlobe for 10 seconds. He goes, stop and rub your earlobe. He goes, I know it sounds funky. He goes, try it. I fucking tried it. I thought this is stupid. Like there's no way. And it actually worked. It broke that pattern just enough to say, yeah, okay, I don't need to eat that right now. Just fucking get on the way. So I do see what you're saying. And I think everyone's different. Maybe they gotta, maybe it's to take a walk or something, but I think that's on point right there. You got to find something to interrupt.
Right. Well, and the other reason the earlobe is, it's an acupressure point. And I don't know if you've ever had anyone that talks about EFT, emotional freedom technique, where it's the tapping.
Who talked about tapping was Jack Canfield.
Right. Yeah.
That's where I'd heard that. But man, it's been a while. I don't really remember much about it.
tapping or EFT was in the 30-day sobriety solution. And you talked with him about that, right?
I did. Yeah. It was back in, I can't remember what episode.
A couple years ago.
Yeah. You hooked me up with him, man. You're the king of hookups.
Anyway, but that can be a thing. Also changing your breathing pattern, works really well if you're like, trying to quit smoking. Yeah. And I teach pranayama, which is also breath work, or, prana is the breath, the life force. Yama is the restraint of it. So there are certain breathing patterns that you can practice. These are really practical for people that, stress, anger. This will be something that's super practical. Probably there are two that are really easy to do. But like, for example, if you've ever smoked or people who smoke and take a smoke break, what's the first thing they do? Light the cigarette, take a long drag, hold it in for a second, let it go, right?
Fuck,
right?
Dude.
Yeah.
I used to smoke, so yeah, you just did that sound. I'm like, oh God, I can't stand the fucking smoking now. But
I know, but it's a changing of the breath pattern.
Yeah.
Your body doesn't really want the smoke. Sure, it gets addicted to the nicotine. I mean, that's been proven that they spiked it to make it extra, chemically dependent on a nice of them, right? But what your body instinctively knows is it needs to change its breathing pattern. And your body knows that by changing your breathing pattern that you can access a different state of mind through breath. Okay. Now, there are a couple things. One is breathing in and out through your nose. Then when you breathe in and out through your nose, it calms the vagus nerve, which runs between the stomach and the heart. And so there's a nerve that runs all the way down, through the nasal passage, all the way down.
Yeah.
And it just kind of soothes it. It's just like petting a cat, and it's like making that nerve purr. And so you can take just breathe in through your nose and then exhale slowly through the nose. And you got to do that 6 times. A Japanese study found that 6 times of repeating that will change the state of your brain. Another one that can be really helpful for anxiety, anger, and also to fall asleep. Because a lot of times, you have one of the things that causes this anxiety is can't get to sleep. I'm laying here thinking, I got a lot of work to do tomorrow.
Yeah, my mind's just racing, all over the place. Yeah.
And maybe that's why, you have a couple glasses of wine before you go to bed, because that slows you down and you can have a few glasses and, go to sleep. That's what I called it, go to sleep. Some other people might call it passing out. but there's a breathing pattern called 4-7-8. And so that's the number that you would count, inhale for a count of 4, pause for 7, just hold it at the top, and then exhale for 8. And repeat that as often as you need to. Inhale 4, pause 7, exhale 8. And you can make those counts longer as you begin to relax and continue to exhale even longer. And before you know it, you'll either drop off to sleep or you'll notice that your anxiety and anger has been completely changed.
So you're saying you're literally, you could do this in bed, you could do this before bed. I mean, you could do it. It's a good time at nighttime practice. Another
good place to do it is at a red light, during traffic, instead of saying, fuck traffic.
Flipping the guy off next to you, you asshole. No, it's funny. You mentioned that too. I think we get in this state a lot of the time where we have to have, we think that we have to have the perfect setting and we have to have the perfect spot and the perfect time to practice these types of things. And we don't. We can do them all the time throughout the day. That goes for exercising, I actually think it was Marv from One Rep at a Time on this last episode 200, that talked a little bit about this. He talked about, when you're going and you come home from work, and if you have kids, and your kids there and they're happy to see you, pick them up and press them, 4 or 5 times and have some fun with it. And little things like that, although it might kind of sound goofy, but over a period of time, if you're taking those moments, just like you're saying at the stoplight, you're sitting there, take some breaths. Like, you can practice this shit day in and day out throughout the day. It's never going to be this, or maybe it will be in certain times. You'll get to have some of that time where it's that perfect moment for you. But the majority of the time, we're busy, we're doing things. You got to find time to do it, when you can. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah, you got to get the everyday stuff right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like it's unusual to go on, say, a meditation retreat where it's set up where your whole daily program is all about meditation and creating an environment that's cool for that.
Yeah.
What's more important is to have a skill that you can employ during those little bits during your day-to-day life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's going to make a bigger difference.
What is your perfect time for meditation? Like I like to do my shit in the morning. Like, that's my favorite time.
I'm definitely a morning. I'm definitely a morning person.
Dude, it's so legit. Like, starting my day like that, some water, some coffee, some meditation prayer. And the days, when I'm locked in on that, because, some mornings are gnarly and it might mess your schedule up a little bit. But when I'm dialed in like that, my days are much better.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, for me, I've always been morning. It's just morning is the time to get up and do stuff for either fun stuff or your own projects, or before anything. Nobody's going to take 4 to 6 a.m. from me.
Yeah,
and it sounds crazy. Like, you really get up at 4? Like, dude, yeah.
That's
I get
my
up
time.
I got to wake up, Jocko, and say, hey, post your 4:30 thing,
Hey, dude. So you just brought that up. Funny, because I forgot, but I remembered about 20 minutes ago. I was racking my brain trying to think, who the fuck was it that sent me the Jocko? Like, you lost today. Good. And that was you, right?
Oh, yeah,
you sent
yeah.
me that. So talk about that mindset a little bit, because that was fucking great, dude. You sent that to me a month or two ago, and I watched it a bunch of times. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's a short, maybe 2-minute YouTube video from Jocko Willink. Anybody could Google Jocko. Good.
I'm gonna find it right now while you're talking, and I'm gonna put it in the show notes.
Yeah,
Jocko Good.
And basically the idea of anything that happens, you can say good to. Like, oh, you didn't get the promotion at work? Good.
Yeah.
More time to prepare. Oh, you hit, whatever it was. I mean, like, you didn't get the gear you wanted. Good.
Yeah.
We'll find ways to improvise. Oh, you didn't max out your bench press. Good. Now you know that you got tapped out. Good. Now you know what doesn't work.
Your boner doesn't work. That's not good. That's the only thing I could come up with when you sent me that I was like, nah, that's not fucking good. But everything else, yes.
I had a guy early on in my podcast who had prostate cancer and had his prostate removed, and he couldn't get a boner. Oh, and you know what he said? He said that it unlocked new levels of intimacy with his partner that he wouldn't trade it for the world.
Really? That is interesting.
Yeah. I mean,
crazy.
But that was him.
Yeah.
And
well, that's the concept of it, right? You can find the good in anything if you.
Okay. So look at, like when my back injury happened and, I went to college with a big prescription of narcotics and a fucking cane, I hobbled around college, UCSB, Party Central with a cane, dude. I mean, like, I was getting fat because I wasn't able to work out, and Jesus, I mean, like, and I look back at that and I think that was the worst thing that ever happened to me. I mean, it stole my athleticism. It stole my military dream. But then now looking back at that, it's like 20 something years ago. I'm like, okay, somehow
it makes sense.
That put me in a physical therapist's office who told me to go to yoga. That changed my life. I've changed, hundreds, if not thousands of other people's lives just by doing what I do.
Yeah.
And like people say, oh, a big guy can do it. You mean, and then when they hear that I started when I was fucking crippled and on drugs, you know, and now I'm not, you know, I mean, I ran the LA Marathon last year.
How'd that go?
Oh, it was painful.
So what?
It's going to be a few years before I do another, you know, but anyway, I mean, that's like another thing, you know, like when I, and it led me to even start a YouTube channel, Yoga with Navy Dave.
Nice.
So, you know, I've got videos up there that have been seen by people in something like 130 countries, you know, it's like crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know, I mean, and you know, so that injury was one of the best things that ever happened to me.
No, and that, you know what, that is a great point right there, in the fact that I think it rolls over into the victim mentality. I played the victim mentality for a long time. A lot of folks feel me on that, have gone through that. They understand it. A lot of people probably don't too. So let me break it down a little bit. In my own experience was, you know, just what you're talking about, trauma, you know, shit that we have been through as kids, as childhoods. We blame people. Why didn't this happen to me? Why didn't I have the father that I always wanted? Why didn't I get this job? Why am I drinking so much? All those types of things. And what it does is it sets up that victim mentality. And it fucking haunted me for many, many years. And it wasn't until number one, I got sober, and then I started to work on myself and work a program and start to listen and learn how to take advice, drop my ego, my pride, and start to understand myself. And what happened was this fucking amazing thing where I started to be able to embrace those challenges in my life and those things that hurt me and that turned me into having that victim mentality as the things that made me who I am today. And it's so fucking powerful. And I'm not saying by any means I have it all figured out or anything like that, but there's something about it that I can feel inside my gut and my heart where I can embrace a lot of that shit now, instead of turning my back on it in anger and turning my back on it and running from it and running to drugs, running to alcohol. And that kind of leads into this too. You know, we've talked a lot about the alcohol, you know, and addictions and stuff too. That's the face of the problem. What's the real problem? That even goes back to what you were talking about with yoga. Those hurts, those hangups, those things, they dwell deep, not only in our hearts, but in our bodies and stuff too. The alcohol is a symptom of that pain. So we have to find a way, you know, if we're going to cut that shit out, we have to find a way to take a deep look at what it is that's haunting us and why we're choosing to go down that path of using, you know, substances or whatever the fuck it is to help us get through some of that stuff, you know?
Right.
Crazy shit.
And you're free to hold on to it, man. You're free to hold on to that pain, you know, but hopefully this journey on life is going to be a long one.
Yeah.
And, you know, so. and like you told me before the show that you're getting ready to go on a backpacking trip.
Yeah.
You know, and like the longer the journey, the less you want to carry. And
hey, that is, oh man, that's a phenomenal analogy.
You know, so deal with it. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, you start to deal with it, you start to move through it. And for me, what I found was that yoga, the practice, was really okay. It was an access to vitality, like where I was all stuck because I couldn't shit because I was on narcotics, you know, got things moving again. It got my circulation going again. It got my organs healthy again. It got my endocrine system healthy again. Yeah. So I started feeling good. I started feeling vital, you know, and then it got me healthy. So I got strong again. Right. Like, you know, and then once you're, you know, healthy and strong and things are moving and you're not holding on to as much, you're not collecting as much, that's when you start to find freedom.
Dude, totally, man. That it's so true. Like, and as this goes live, since you mentioned it, when this is live, I'll be on the Pacific Crest Trail up in Tahoe National Forest on a backpacking trip, and I'm going to take about, I don't know, probably 50 pounds. I always say I'm going to try to pack in 35 or 40. It ends up being 50 or 55 because I got to take all my, you know, extra shit that I think I need that I don't need. But by the end of the trip, hopefully I've lost some of that stuff and I'm rolling back. So it's a great analogy. Now, I want to mention, how much time do you have? We're already, fuck, dude, it's crazy, bro. We're already an hour in, man. We're just chatting it up. But I did want to mention though the combat mat, because that all came out. You've had this this journey from the shit that happened to you as a kid with Jackass and your mom, and then going to the Navy, getting addicted to prescription pills, finding yoga, all that stuff has led into now you've created this awesome combat mat. So tell us a little bit about what it is and how it kind of came up.
Yeah. So the idea was as I got into yoga and as I started to realize the healing that was happening in my body, and and I started studying about yoga and PTSD, and very effective treatment, and I got to thinking, okay, so now I'm practicing yoga. It's helping me find freedom, not only with my body, freedom from pain, freedom from drugs, freedom from just the shit that holds you down. Yeah. And really, whether it be emotional hurts or whatever. And I thought, as I was looking around, I didn't see any badass yoga mats, like I started with an $8 purple mat from Ross or something like that, and then I tried a few others, and I've tried, almost every super premium yoga mat on the market. And I found a manufacturer who could do what I want, make it a little wider to accommodate men's bodies, a little longer, because a lot of times they're just like you're hanging over the yoga mat and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then I don't know how it came up, but I thought, more veterans need to be involved in yoga, and get on a mat to have that healing. But there wasn't one that was specifically like marketed to men, and the name COMBATMAT popped into my head. Yeah. And I thought it had a nice ring to it. Yeah. Badass. And the domain was available. So I was like, I registered the domain, and then I started looking for a manufacturer that could do what I wanted for it. And so finally found one after several tries. It took a long time to find the right formula and all of that. Because like, as you find out, if you're going to lay on a mat for an hour a day in your sweat, you don't want to have a mat that's got chemicals and phthalates and all that kind of stuff that mess up your hormones and endocrine system. We've got enough problems with that, Yeah. And so, so that's what it is. And it's a natural rubber mat, polyurethane top, non-slip. So, you can sweat on it and it doesn't get slippery. It's fucking badass.
Yeah, dude.
COMBATMAT.com.
I was just going to ask you. So COMBATMAT.com, it comes in all types of different colors and camo. And
actually, right? I've just got blue and black right now.
Solid though. Two solid ass colors.
So I'm working on a camo pattern. I've tried a couple, but the manufacturer hasn't gotten it right yet, and
really?
Yeah. So we're still working on that.
I got to try one of these things out, man. COMBATMAT.com. I'm going to check it out. Yeah, because we're going to have a yoga session on the backpacking trip. Remember I was telling you, my homeboy Scotty's going to lead it up. So I don't know. Yeah. We did some yoga out in Oakland not too long ago too, man, at Ume Yoga Studio with Chelsea Rappel. She did it was a recovery meeting. And then right following, we did a podcast, then we did the recovery meeting, and then we did yoga right afterwards with the same group. It was really fucking cool, dude. Like, and I'm no yoga expert by any means, so I'm not the most flexible bastard out there, but it was awesome, dude. I gotta, it's like anything, you just practice and keep it moving.
Yep.
Good stuff, dude.
Yeah. With practice, all things are coming. That's what the father of modern yoga says. And that's, probably goes well in the sober community too, right?
Hell yeah. I agree, man. Always good to talk to you. What are you at David Rachford on Twitter, COMBATMAT.com.
Yeah. And it's I'm at davidratchford.com or on Insta. I'm not super active on Insta right now. I've just kind of been burned out on that one. So I was like, pick that up later, maybe.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you coming on, man.
Hey, it's been good. Thank you so much.
Be sure to check us out at thatsoberguy.com. Thanks for tuning in today. Peace, love, respect. Keep your blood clean.